now, Lee, we are going to head to a section of the show that we call the Talkback. This is where we take questions from viewers, from the audience, kind enough to drop some really good questions in there. So we're going to get right to it. My friend and yours, Matt Spenley, is with us. The recently promoted Matt Spenley is with us to share some questions. Matt, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, Ian. I am so sorry I missed last week. I appreciated you giving me a hard time about it. You know, got to keep ourselves humble out here. So I appreciate it, but I am back this week. I want to start out before we get into some of our questions, Ian. Can you just reset and tell us what the Knicks can still do with the roster and what positions they have available that they can fill before we get into this?
Yeah, so the Knicks have to stay under the second apron from a team salary perspective. They've got enough room there to add a free agent on the rookie deal, which is a certain amount of money. And then they have enough money to add a veteran free agent, veterans minimum, which is a little bit more money. So they have two holes to fill essentially before they reach that second apron. And that's kind of where it sits right now. I mean, there's stuff floating around at this time of year, as there always is, but that's really where it sits for the Knicks. If assuming this is the group they're going to training camp with, those are the two moves that are still left on the table.
Okay, great. Good to know. Thank you for resetting. Now, let's get into it. Our guy, Derek Sullivan, drools. Hey, Ian, free agency in general seems to be at a standstill. Is there a particular reason teams are waiting to fill their last few roster spots? Thank you.
Yeah, at this point, I think it's, what does Summer League look like? Who's going to shake out in the buyout market? You kind of have a very good idea of who is already out there, who's already available to you. So I think it's just some teams you're seeing, just assess their options and seeing what, if anything, continues to shake loose as you get through Summer League, potential buyouts with Marcus Smart, Josh Okogie in Charlotte. I believe was waived reportedly because his contract was going to be guaranteed today. So players like that become available. And so I think that's kind of why you're seeing things kind of halt to a standstill here. I would expect or hope that something gets done shortly after Summer League with that last spot, but let's see how it shakes out.
We will see indeed. Lee, you have any opinions on how the Knicks should fill out their roster here?
I have stood by since last season. Bring back Landry Shamet, start him at the 2, if not Deuce. There's also one other name that I like that to me doesn't compromise the defense or the spacing, which is Amir Coffey, who was a part-time starter on the LA Clippers last year. Oddly benched by Ty Lue going to the playoffs, but it sits 8, gives you nice size and corner 3 shooting.
So we'll see what they decide to do. The next one I had was Dewey at MSG. Any news on who we're using the last vet minimum contract on, Ian? But I think you addressed some names. Are any other names that you want us to be keeping an eye on that are worth pointing out?
Yeah, I mean, they remain interested in Landry Shamet, the Knicks, that is, and Shamet remains open to coming back here. And so I do think there's some support for that idea, bringing the veteran back. You saw how he played in the Eastern Conference Finals when he got some minutes, how he impacted the game. So I think that there's support there. Also, Ben Simmons. To my knowledge, as of late last week, they were still in touch with Simmons. He was still under consideration for that last spot. And so what you're looking at, in a sense, is, Simmons kind of versatile, but also somebody who can handle the ball. And if you need, a point guard off the bench, he's shown that he can handle the ball. That's what he's done in the league. Whereas Shamet, I always say Landry Fields. My apologies to both Landrys. Landry Shamet is not a ball handler, not a lead guard, but certainly somebody who can come off pin downs and knock shots down and can play valuable team defense. So he gives you a different element. So it tells you that the Knicks, it doesn't seem to be a consensus on which position to fill to when you look at the roster, when you look at the two guys that I know that they're looking at. I'm sure they're looking at others as well, but certainly Landry, I do think there's some support there, and we'll see how it goes over the next few weeks.
Lee, Ian referenced Ben Simmons. What are your thoughts on him?
You must have saw my facial expression.
I did.
His elite elements are indisputable. He absolutely is one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA. Great size at the point guard position. I think he's more of a wing at this point in his career and not a lead guard. But the mental situations with him, the drive, the motor, and just the inability to shoot. Unless you're starting him, you're severely compromising the spacing on the bench, pairing him with Clarkson, Mitchell Robinson, and Josh Hart. That doesn't seem like a recipe for success in terms of shooting, and that would really make the offense very cluttered. So I don't see him as a realistic option. That's why I advocate for guys who do both defense and shooting. I'm always defense first. It wins championships. That's why I like Landry Shamet as my choice.
Makes total sense. All right, going to shift gears just a little bit to more on the court. And you guys were talking a little about Cat before. Clevy11 is asking, what do you think Mike Brown will do differently from Tibbs with regards to Karl Anthony Towns? We saw how he maximized Sabonis' ability to dominate multiple facets of the game offensively. Do you see the same with Cat and Brown? Now, Ian, obviously, Sabonis and Cat, two very different players, given Cat's proficiency at shooting threes. But just in terms of the role that Cat might play, you guys were also talking about Cat being the starting center. What do you think Brown can bring to the table with his schemes in Cat?
Yeah, I mean, Lee hit on it earlier, I think, when we talked about, top of the floor passing and kind of multiple threats out of that position. I don't want to say like a Draymond, but I know Mike Brown very, very fond of Draymond Green and the role that he played with Golden State when Brown was there. So maybe shades of Draymond with Karl Towns in terms of how he may operate as a hub for that offense. That to me seems like a good educated guess based on Brown's history, as Lee referenced. And Lee, do you see it that way? Is that something that you could see as realistic with Mike and Karl?
Absolutely, for sure. I mean, you're right. There are differences between Sabonis and Karl Anthony Towns. I think there are more similarities. They both have touch. Karl Anthony Towns is a little bit more of a flashier passer and a less efficient passer than Arvydas Sabonis, who's a very good player, but he has better foot speed and lateral quickness than Sabonis as well. So I think you hit the nail on the head, Ian. I think the Draymond Green action, which Tibbs used Josh Hart in a lot last year, high post, pinch post as a passing hub. I think you're going to see that with Karl Anthony Towns, but even move him closer over to the perimeter in dribble handoff situations, which is why I advocate so strongly for Landry Shamet or Deuce McBride in the starting lineup, because it allows them to be those guys either in a pin down, as you mentioned earlier, or in a dribble handoff off of a curl, to be able to catch and shoot, get in rhythm without having to be on ball so often, and use Karl Anthony Towns' ability to then, if he wants to, fake the pass on the floor and get in there.
Lee loves shooting. We got that. All right. Ian, I want to go to another starter for the Knicks, Mikal Bridges. Jimmy F. on YouTube's asking, does it look like a Mikal Bridges extension, or are they waiting for a bigger trade to potentially take place, another transaction? So can you just kind of, again, reset a little bit for us what the Knicks situation with Mikal is and if there's any latest updates we should be aware of?
Yeah, Bridges eligible for I believe, 4-year, $150+ million extension here. If they don't extend, Bridges would be a free agent next summer. So kind of a pivotal moment here for Bridges and the Knicks. Bridges has been out in Las Vegas. He's been at the training facility, so he's been a very visible presence there around the team, around the young guys. And I think that's not nothing there. And so when you look at from a big picture sense, you could take even Mikal's name out of it, because it could be any player in this situation. With the Knicks and all the other teams kind of keeping an eye on Milwaukee and what may or may not happen there, I think one reason why he has not been extended yet is because once you extend him, you cannot trade him for 6 months. And I think, until the Giannis stuff is fully settled, and I don't think it's fully settled yet, as much as I'm sure Bucks fans hate to hear that, because I would hate to hear it if I was a Bucks fan, but I don't think it's fully settled. And so as teams continue to keep an eye on that, to continue to at least plan with that somewhere in the back of their mind, I think that's why you haven't seen Bridges extended yet. When he does extend, that I think that would tell you that Giannis is put to bed, is off the table in a sense. But I think that's one factor at play here in terms of the timing. So the extension, when it happens, if it happens, should tell you something about what's going on in Milwaukee.
Lee, do you expect we'll see a Bridges extension before the offseason's through?
I hope so. I've heard some rumblings that if they prolong that, they're able to trade him once he signs the extension. That's not something I'm advocating for, but I do reference that because we've seen it before in RJ Barrett. And The extension usually is the inciting incident that ends up determining whether a player is traded or not. We saw that also with Quentin Grimes and Emmanuel Quickly. So I hope Mikal Bridges sticks around because we gave up a lot for him. And I'm not one of those that complained about how many picks that we traded, but I do think that Mike Brown is going to take him, like I said, more out of the point of attack as a defender and allow him to have more energy saved and rest more to be able to have more of an opportunity on offense.
And a guy that could potentially add to his game with Brown at the helm. Ian, last one for you. And I'm curious, just can you give us an update a little bit on Brown's coaching staff? Our guy, Nicholas Braxton, have you heard anything about Jerry Stackhouse, Chris DeMarco, or Mike Budenholzer being considered for lead assistant? So those are just some names, but can you just kind of reset for us a little bit too about Brown's coaching staff, how he'll fill it out, and if there's any names we should be keeping an eye on?
Right. So on the staff, I'll just start by saying that from what I know, everyone who interviewed for that Knick job was told they'll have full autonomy with their coaching staff. But there were, discussions about some of the guys on Tibbs' staff, some of the assistants on Tibbs' staff. And so I still would expect some holdovers there. I still would expect Darren Erman, Rick Brunson, Mark Bryant, and Maurice Cheeks to be among the group of holdovers. And so that doesn't leave a ton of spots for Mike Brown to add and to tinker with the staff. He's going to bring in a top assistant. And I think it's our friend Stephen Bondi who said the Knicks got denied by Dallas trying to lure Jay Triano to that spot. They definitely had interest there, and that kind of fell through. So, you look at the landscape of the league, I think, the names that were mentioned. With Budenholzer, he's sitting on a lot of money from Phoenix. Is he going to sit and wait for a head coaching job? Is he going to come in and be underneath a head coach? I can't see him coming in and being an associate head coach given the current circumstances. The name that interests me too, when you look at benches out there, Terry Stotts in Golden State, obviously had that significant role in Milwaukee where it didn't work out with Adrian Griffin. It's worked out, it seems like, in Golden State. Would Golden State want to part ways with him? Probably not. So it's been a tricky dance here for the Knicks and for Mike Brown to fill out that top spot. He will fill it out eventually. It will be someone there as his quote-unquote offensive coordinator, associate head coach, but they haven't obviously landed anybody yet. I would look out for the Knicks being granted permission to speak to somebody who's established, like a Stotts, or they tried on Triano. I think they'll continue going that route until they hit pay dirt.
Even in the middle of summer, still a lot of stuff going on. NBA calendar just keeps rolling on. So that's what I got, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spindley.